administrators imported this legal doctrine straight from soggy, rain-soaked England and applied it directly to a semi-arid country. It essentially dictated that if you didn't hold a paper deed to the actual riverbank, you had zero legal right to the water. In a landscape where water is already scarce, tying survival strictly to land deeds, especially right before the 1913 Land Act restricted land ownership for the vast majority of the population, was a deliberate, incredibly effective tool of exclusion. It transformed these shared, ancient arteries of life into private commodities.
There is a massive clash of worldviews happening here. On one side, you have this ancient reverence for water. The Venda people, for instance, protected their springs through taboos and sacred prohibitions. And this wasn't just superstition. It was a highly evolved form of environmental regulation encoded in story. You couldn't fetch water with a rusty container because that would pollute the drinking supply for the whole community. Makes sense, right? But colonial administrators, they looked at that and saw only waste. They replaced the sacred spring with the state-owned meter. The water meter is literally the sacrament of the commodity. It boils life-giving water down to cubic meters and transforms a living relationship into a cold, hard transaction. Before we move on to the psychological fences, I want you to consider how this commercialization of nature changes your own behavior today. How does viewing a vital resource like water, or honestly, even your own personal energy, as a commodity alter your relationship with it? Which brings us to part 3, fencing the mind, constructing the psychological cage. Having built the physical cage out of land and water, historical administrators essentially poured the concrete by fencing the mind through education. The ultimate goal of these systems was brutally simple. As the old quote goes, the visitor did not want thinkers, he wanted workers. Early mission schools and later the totally devastating 1954 Bantu Education Act were absolutely not designed to liberate the mind, they were designed to replace it. Relying on the rigid Prussian model, the curriculum was just an assembly line of obedience. Kids were forbidden to speak their mother tongues. They were taught that their own ancestors were pagans. The whole point was to produce a reliable, docile laborer for the mines and compounds, somebody who would show up on time, follow the rules, and just accept the hierarchy of the industrial assembly line without question. Reflect on your own time in the classroom for a second. Think back and ask yourself this critical question. What parts of your education taught you compliance rather than curiosity? How much of your schooling was really just about waiting for the bell to ring? Okay, part 4, the bureaucracy of control, the lock on the cage. All of these physical and psychological boundaries eventually build into the ultimate tool of enclosure, the bureaucratic lock. We see this vividly through tools like the Dampas, or passbook, used in 20th century South Africa. The colonial and apartheid systems essentially reduced living, breathing individuals into mere files.